Hey, George, you're a scientist.
I'm a chemist, yes.
Right, you're a scientist. So I was driving in the car the other day with my young children, and it was kind of stormy. And, where I live doesn't get a ton of thunderstorms, but when we do, it's usually in the summer, like a lot of places. But, the Mountain West, not a ton of lightning, especially not compared to where you and I grew up, where it was like lightning for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, right? So they are not used to it the way you and I are. So it still like kind of freaks them out a little bit. And one of them said something like, I hope the car doesn't get struck by lightning. And before I could say anything, the other one said, well, we'd be okay because we're in the car because the tires are rubber. And I went, that doesn't sound right. And they took that to mean like, oh, that means we are actually in danger. To which I was like, no, wait, what I meant was, I am fairly sure we are safe inside the car. I don't know that it is because of the rubber tires. Just if the car somehow gets struck by lightning, we will either die horribly or be fine. It is probably one of those two things, but I'm pretty sure we would be okay. And they sort of took that, but like I know a scientist, so like what actually would happen if the car you were driving in got struck by lightning?
Oh, darn it, Lions. I'm a chemist, not a physicist, but with my very, very limited knowledge and very limited expertise, I will attempt to apply to this. Two asides to what you just said. One is to the point of where we grew up, I didn't know there was such a thing as a non-thunderstorm. I thought that until I was like a teenager, I thought all rainstorms were thunderstorms. And then somebody was like, oh, it's not only a rain. I think it was when I got to Ohio or something where somebody said, oh, it's not only a rainstorm, it's a thunderstorm. I'm like, yeah, wait, yeah, what? There's a difference?
Storm, right?
yeah, of course there's lightning. Like, that's what happens. And also, too, I appreciate your children who were just kind of like, well, I mean, it's one or the other. But I will say that it warms my heart that occasionally you'll say, I got a guy for this. So let us begin. So let's start with, and I promise this will all come together, but let's build a foundation. What is static electricity?
Oh,
I don't want to talk about lightning. I want to talk about static electricity.
I think you have a positively charged thing. No, it would have to be a negatively charged thing, and then it gets near like a positively charged thing, and electrons jump from the higher energy place to the lower energy place, maybe, and so you get like a shock. Yeah, this somehow the directionality of this feels backwards, but I'm thinking like you're the stereotypical like kid in your socks, your wool socks on Christmas morning, and you're shuffling across the carpet trying to be quiet, and it's the chill winter air, and then you touch like a doorknob or something and you get shocked. And the picture I'd built up in my head is that like you have built up a negative charge from the shuffling, and then the doorknob is less negatively charged or positively charged, and so you get like the bzz when like the electrons shoot over. But like that sounds weird now that I'm saying it out loud.
You're directionally correct, right? I feel like that you had sight of the right exit, and you kept like pumping the brakes, saying like, I need to get off at that exit. I just don't know how to get my car there, but I know I'm driving past it. Bye. So yeah, no, you're in the right ballpark. So interestingly, do you know the reason why it's called static electricity is to differentiate it from current electricity, right? So literally we think of them as one and the same, right? When you shuffle your feet and then touch the thing, but actually when you're shuffling your feet, you are building static electricity until you touch the doorknob and discharge it, at which point it becomes current electricity, right?
Is the term for that actually current electricity?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
Or to differentiate it from current.
I am listening to you, but all I can think is there future electricity? Is there future electricity? Is there future electricity?
But yeah, it's like the flow of the current, like right. that current.
So when you have the charge built up, it is
static,
different in some way that is meaningful from current electricity. It is static, and that is like a measurable thing.
Because it's an electric field that isn't moving. because it's built up around you, it's static,
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Like sometimes the scientists that name stuff, they get it,
Yeah. I guess I don't think of electricity as a thing that is ever still, which is why I'm like, yes, okay. Like I'm following you, but my brain is like, electricity can be still.
Well, because the wild thing is electricity is actually a field force, which is even weirder.
Yeah. It's always modeled as like a flow of electrons, but that's not really what's happening, I think.
No, it's a electromagnetic field, and sometimes that electromagnetic field moves, which is most of the time when we're interested in it, But even like
those boring static ones.
We tend to be, interestingly, at least in my own personal experience, we tend to be more interested in static electromagnetic fields when are more interested in the magnetic part of the electromagnetic field in those cases, not the electric part, So the more you know. But anyways, and this is definitely for yet another disclaimer. The depth of this field of knowledge is deep, and I am scratching the surface. I don't do any real electrochemistry, so my knowledge is pretty weak. But that being said, so what interestingly happens is, we have talked about the different types of bonds before. Would you like to review them for our audience?
Yeah. the normal ones, like the common ones.
Yep, the top three. I remember a very handsome gentleman just recently bragging to me that he knew the three
One
different
of
types
them
of bonds
specifically. Yeah. So ionic, covalent, and let's see, this is why I am terrible at like bar trivia. It's like, hey, who knows the answer to their own first name? And I'm like, I don't know.
Nope, never heard it before.
I'm the nameless hero from that Jet Li movie. Ionic, covalent, and it's not hydrogen. Hydrogen's one of the dumb ones.
I would accept hydrogen bonding. I also would have accepted metallic bonds.
Ooh, metallic bonds.
Yep. So, but both, like there's actually a couple other niche ones, but those are the big ones, right? That being said, so let's talk about covalently bonded stuff. So the idea is that they share electrons, but the idea is the reason why they're sharing electrons, as most things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis are covalently bonded. The reason why they're sharing those electrons is to even out so they don't have a charge, right? The overall molecule isn't charged, right? So, like you've got oxygen or carbon, needs 4 electrons to get an octet. It forms another bond with a 4 carbon electron, and now all of a sudden they're happy with their hydrogens and all that kind of good stuff.
Does that mean? Do they? I mean, nothing wants anything, right? These are just like fundamental forces. But do things seek to be neutrally charged so that they're not interacting with their environment? Like, it is beneficial to be a molecule that is not positively or negatively charged, because then you won't just react with things you like pass by in the environment.
Well, that's the thing is yes, because so things tend to be neutrally charged because if they have a charge, they will seek out their opposite charge and then form. So
it's more stable to be neutrally charged.
Yes, well, I mean, in the sense that, like, so for example, potassium benzoate, right? That's bad. Potassium benzoate, which is used as a chemical preservative, right, is actually benzoate, benzoic acid, right, which is neutrally charged. It loses a hydrogen, so then it becomes benzoate, which is negatively charged. It then seeks out potassium, which is positively charged, to form potassium benzoate, right? So, like, if you have benzoate, it will sit there as benzoate until it can find something positively charged, and it goes, "Oh, thank God!" And it finds it, and then it evens out, right? And that's just because negatives and positives attract to each other, right? So to that point, right, is that, so let's take ethanol. You can throw another electron in there, and it will just be mildly unhappy and with a negative charge, right? And then it will seek out positively charged stuff. Or more importantly, it'll attempt to discharge that electron because it doesn't want it. Its cup runneth over with electrons, right? So when you constantly action figure bump molecules together, there is a chance that one of them will snatch an electron inadvertently, right? So when you're shuffling your feet across the floor, right, you're constantly bumping all of your molecules against the molecules that are in the floor, and some of your molecules will snatch up electrons just inadvertently, right? And then all of a sudden your body starts to develop this charge as it moves, as all these free electrons kind of, nobody wants these extra electrons. They keep passing them around, right? And then they just kind of go wherever they, and which is why like sometimes your hair will stand on end because all of your hair is now negatively charged and is attempting to get as far away from your other negatively charged hair.
Yeah,
you know?
That's funny.
Yeah, so like your hair is trying to escape you because it has become negatively charged and it doesn't know what else to do. So so then when you touch the doorknob, which is grounded, the electrons say, oh my God, finally, and they all flow through you to the doorknob, which then, then flows out into the environment and is discharged, right? So that is what
does grounded mean something specific with regard to charge or no? Like, if you were touching a doorknob that was floating in the air somehow, or like if somebody tossed you something metal, like could that be in a grounded state, or does grounded here literally mean like can reach the ground through some number of steps?
Yeah, so grounded means is basically touching the ground, because the ground basically has a near infinite capacity to accept that charge, right? So if somebody tossed you a ball and you're positively charged, some of your charge will move into that ball, but the ball is limited in its ability to accept the charge. So the current would be relatively low because once it's evened out once it's evened out with you with the charge, it's now done all of the work it can do, basically. Whereas the Earth has a much grander ability to accept those charges, right?
Okay, wait, slow down here. I have to add this to my notes. Earth larger than ball.
Well, it depends on the ball, right? But
you're not thinking large enough.
Because what is the sun if not a giant beach ball? You see, I always thought they were giant balls of gas burning billions and billions of miles away. Yes. So then, okay, so we've now talked about static electricity. So when we talk about what is lightning, and I'll just take this one because there's a lot. I won't make you because honestly, if you'd ask me what is lightning, I would say electricity before I had done some research on this article. So, but basically is what happens is warm, moist air rises, right, during a rainstorm, right? Because of that, that's causing water droplets to bump against other water droplets, very similar to you running your feet across the floor as you did when you were shuffling to avoid awaking your parents, right? So that means it is building a static charge. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a very, very large cloud that has a bunch of static charged pockets in it, right? Those pockets are insulated, and so an insulator is something that prevents or limits current from moving through it because it's not good at passing the current through, right? So the air, which is not a great conductor of electricity, manages to insulate these pockets of negative charge and positive charge until eventually, like all things, it insulates it until it cannot. Until the charge builds up so much that the air is no longer a strong enough insulator, and the electricity then arcs from the negative to the positive, right? Yes. The electrons arc from the negative to the positive, even though we say the current moves in the opposite direction.
I hate this part. We've talked about this or alluded to this a number of times, and I hate it. I hate it as much as you hate it. It's terrible.
It's awful every time. It shows potentially a lack of creativity, but if somebody said top 5 things to change with a time machine, you got your kill Hitler, you got like your big 3, and then it's like
kill Hitler, save JFK, make current and electron paths the same direction, and
yep.
I don't know, then I guess let somebody else use the last 2.
Yep, and then I don't know, get like a 3-foot hoagie, I guess. I don't know. But an old-timey hoagie. But anyway, so yes, so basically that's what lightning is, right? It's that discharge, right? So, and interestingly, most lightning, as we probably is somewhat sage knowledge, we kind of already know this, is cloud to cloud lightning, right? Because that's the easier way for it to neutralize that current. Is because again, nature is just lazy as hell. So it's like, look, man, I got a bunch of positive charge and a bunch of negative charge, and I just want everything to be neutral. What's the fastest way I can get rid of this? Behold, negative and positive, connect those two. But sometimes enough negative charge builds up that it goes, behold, the ground, as we said before. It goes, and it's infinite capacity to take all of this electricity. I'm going to throw it there. And then that's what causes a lightning to strike the ground.
It sounds like you may be suggesting that when lightning strikes stuff we care about, the lightning doesn't think it's doing that. The lightning thinks it's striking the ground because a tree or a car or even a building relative to the earth is like the ball, way smaller.
Yes. Yeah. And it's just like, I have hit the ground. And look, parts of the ground are way higher than other parts of the ground. So I'm going to hit, again, the easiest thing that I can. So basically the idea is that if it's hitting the ground, then that must be preferential to hitting somewhere else in the cloud, which means it's closer than the nearest, positive charged pocket in the cloud. So, it's got to be, that's why taller things are more likely to be struck by lightning. Also, things that are highly conductive are more likely to be struck by lightning. So that is what lightning is. It is a discharge of static electricity to the nearest grounded object, right? So then we can say, what if that the object that it thinks is the ground is your car, right? So we talked about the tires, and again, like I kind of want to stress the fact that this is not my area of expertise, so I'm just doing my best. So if you really, really, want to know more about electricity, research it yourself, and also too, if you really, really, really want to drive your car through a dangerous thunderstorm, double check this stuff yourself, because I'm not saying like, oh, well, because of these factors, it's completely safe forever and ever. Don't do that. Don't do anything that's going to get us sued.
Or you hurt, I guess.
So what rubber does is, if you had to, what is the main property that rubber has that it kind of bears on this discussion, right? Like it is
I think it's a great insulator.
Correct. Nailed it. Right. And part of me was like, this isn't a great question, because I always hate it when I'm like, I'm like, I am looking for this specific word, but you nailed it.
Yes. Fill in this Mad Lib, but only one way.
Once in a while, somebody I know will say like, oh, that's just like this one thing I always say, right, George? Do you remember what that is? I'm like, I don't know, man. You say a lot of stuff. Like,
yeah, anytime someone tosses to you and they're like, the thing you memorized that I say because I'm the main character, and it's like, am I the one that has to tell you you're not the main character?
One of the ones at one point this person said he said, well, saying A. He said like, oh, you know what I always say about that? And I was like, saying A. And he was like, that's right. You're going to remember that forever. And I was like, yeah, but not for the reason that you think. It's more so that you've said it so many times that I've memorized it because I've heard it 5 times, like, so it's like, yes, but it's not famous. It is infamous. So the rubber on the tire just makes your car a less attractive target, right? Because it is not as grounded as other things around it. So like perfectly in theory, and keeping in mind that random statistics play into this, if you had your car and another object that without rubber tires that was the same size and shape as your car, the other object would get preferentially struck by lightning. So in 100 lightning strikes, the other object would get struck more often than your car because your car is grounded and the other object is not, So that's where the tires play into it. But once the car gets struck, there is enough charge for it to easily overcome that insulator that is your tires, because, your tires are doing your best with the lift, but it's just kind of like, saying like, oh man, I'm a strong dude. It's like, you can lift? Oh yeah, bro, I lift. It's like, could you lift the earth? It's like, no,
too much.
It's too much lifting. Although, what would that even look like, right? You just grab the earth and start curling it.
Yeah, that's why I used to do handstand push-ups a lot, because depending on your reference frame, you would say, what I'm actually doing is pushing the earth away from me.
It actually also makes me think of the, whenever you would see like Superman, where it's like, oh, he moved that giant asteroid. It's like, no, he would pierce the asteroid, because he is putting an insane amount of pressure in one place. So it's like, yeah, it's and now that we're talking about Superman, because a handsome gentleman brought it up, that's one of the things I loved about Superman Returns when he was stopping the airplane from falling, was that the main struggle wasn't his strength and ability to stop the airplane. It was to do so without rocketing through the airplane. You know?
Yes. And in fact, they do a cool like animation where the fuselage is kind of like rippling because when they design airplanes, they probably don't test for like, what if Superman has to catch one by the nose?
Yeah. I will say that, you know, people love to you know, crap on that movie, but that scene and the eyeball bullet scene, man, those are some great Superman superpower scenes, man. You know,
yeah. And Brandon Roth, I think it's Roth. He's a handsome dude, right? He's very got this Christopher Reeve kind of look, which is why they picked him, I'm sure. But the why did you think that would work smirk on his face after it's like, you just shot me like 100 times. Like, did you think you found my one weak spot? Like, oh, it's so good. I gotta watch that movie.
Yeah, gotta watch that movie. Absolutely. So what happens if it hits your car, right? Well, we've kind of already mentioned that, you know, electricity likes to follow the path of least resistance, right? So the most conductive thing in your car is the metal, right? So it will follow the path of the metal to the ground, which is what it wanted to do in the first place. That's all it wanted, was to get to the ground. So there's no reason for it to really arc through the car and hit the passengers, because you are so less of an attractive target than the metal and the ground. So it effectively acts as what we've all tossed around before, a Faraday cage, where you can stand in the middle of a giant metal cage and run electricity through it till the cows come home. And as long as you don't touch the metal, and then it would then more preferentially pass through you. But even then, more of the current's going to pass through the metal than is going to pass through you. It's just, if there's enough, it could still hurt.
Yeah.
You know, what it is likely to do is pass through other metal stuff, which is a lot of the car. So, you know, like pieces of the all of the electronics in the car were not made to handle that level of current. So it will probably fry all of your spark plugs, all of your radio, all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, the car won't survive it, but you will. More likely
which is
than
kind of what you want the car to do in a crisis situation. Yes. Like, the car is a thing that I hired to fall on its sword if anything goes wrong. Like, if anything goes wrong, yes, I get to live and the car has to die.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The car is something that is meant to fall on its sword, because I feel like when people said, hey, I'm going to build a machine that is going to go at dangerous speeds regularly. But here's the fun bit. It's not going to be the only thing doing that. There's going to be a whole lot of machines all going at dangerous speeds, made out of things that going at normal speeds will kill you, but I want them going real fast. They were like, we need to make it so that way if anything takes hit point damage, it preferentially car takes the hit point damage, you know, because the car has 500 hit points and I've got 4.
So this does remind me of another thing I want to ask you about.